What's up, y'all? Today we are reading a chapter from my book, Shadows of Seduction, The Bottom Line, Part 2. Today we are reading chapter 6. And chapter 6 is about a girl named Yummy. As a young girl, I was raised in a very strict household. My parents was from the islands, so that means extremely strict. We didn't have a lot. My dad was a taxi driver, and my mom stayed home to cook and clean. Therefore, we really lived paycheck to paycheck. One thing I can't deny though is the fact that my mom kept us looking good, meaning hair done, face greased, and clothes ironed stiff. Although we didn't have the new Jordans, my mom replaced that with the time and love she put into dressing my siblings and me. We looked forward to getting dressed for school or for any event with mom. I never really realized that we were poor because of the love she poured into us. Mom always made sure we all left the house with our heads held high. Hence why I always had an I am that bitch attitude. Becoming a cheerleader did a lot for me. It made my high school years better. I was a part of something cool. We got to get to know the popular girls because, of course, they made the team. Most importantly, the football players liked us, and kids around school recognized us. One thing I can say is that even when I wasn't letting nobody have this little cat with no benefit to me, my mom raised me cleaning my private area thoroughly and treating it like gold. Once the train was ran on Melissa, she was known as the school whore. She was a rich and beautiful girl, but her reputation was tarnished. What I noticed was that this was a normal procedure for the cool kids. Link up, do drugs and alcohol, then have sex with whoever had a hard penis or their legs opened. This is when I realized I didn't even want the boys in my school. Girl, you know the quarterback that drove Eliza home and she gave him head in the backseat of his car 1 block away from her house? Maria asked me one night while we were on the phone gossiping. My mom has been right my whole life. These boys only want what's between our legs or beneath our nose. I'm totally not interested in having any of them, popular, rich, or not, playing with my cat, I exclaimed. It had been a couple years since my mom's passing. I graduated high school like she wanted. Once I got out, I wasn't sure where my life was headed. I was still taking care of my siblings while dad worked. I had this little part-time job, but it was a lot of work for pennies. One day, I met this guy there and he invited me out. I had a thing for older men. High school boys really disgusted me. At least a grown man had some money or could show me some things. This guy's name turned out to be Antonio. He looked like a rapper with diamond chains and diamond rings on damn near each finger. His haircut was immaculate. He sported a Versace wardrobe and left in a brand new 750 BMW. He was raw. I had never left my little job. I wasn't going to be dependent on nobody to help my family out. Or whenever Antonio got into a bad mood and didn't want to help me, I still wanted to be able to help myself. Some way, somehow, I got pregnant. I did not want a damn baby. Lord knows I didn't. I tried everything in my power to talk Tonio into letting me have an abortion. To no avail. So there I was, adding another mouth to my family to feed. Maria had us meet up with some dudes. A guy she was involved with and his friend who was an upcoming rapper. His rapper name was Fargo. His real name was Justin. This man was so fire. His mannerisms, his appearance, his aura, every damn thing. We started at a hookah spot that night and then ended up in a local strip club. I had never been to a strip club. I only knew my boyfriend attended them frequently. When I walked in, I could see why my man liked it. Nothing but a variety of half-naked, beautiful women. When we walked in with Fargo, we got VIP treatment. I'm talking front side parking, skipping the line, a table, and bottles in VIP. Liquor was flowing, dollars was throwing, and asses was bouncing. I liked that. The liquor started kicking in more, and I started my deep thoughts. This time, I felt the light bulb turn on in my head. I could do this. Be a stripper. I was cute, my body was good, I liked to get dressed, and I liked money. It all made sense to me. I got home that night, and of course, Antonio couldn't take his own medicine. He woke up yelling and screaming and questioning me about why I was getting home at 5 a.m. and asking me where I was. Antonio, you do this shit all the time. I go out once, and you act like you losing your life. I shouted back. If looks could kill, he would have dropped dead right then and there. Like, how dare you count my family out? Knowing our struggle, knowing our story, knowing they are the reason that I work the way I do, knowing they are my whole life. I ain't gonna lie, I was hurt at his response, but it wasn't unexpected. That was Antonio. But it was time for Antonio to feel me. I didn't know what the hell he thought it was, but he was about to learn that day. I went to every court hearing and I wanted every damn victory there was. I made his life a living hell on purpose. I was trying to be the nice guy, but he made it come down to this. He got visitations every other weekend, and thanks to his job, he had to pay $2,500 a month in child support. He hated me, and I loved it. Woo, y'all, this book is so good, but this chapter, it gets juicier. One night while at work, Fargo came in. It had been some time since I had spoken to him last or seen him. Some things had changed on both ends. He was a big artist now, very well known, and I was a stripper. At first, I felt weird and I was scared to walk up to him. Bitch, you gonna miss that money. You better go speak, my homegirl Mink said, trying to amp me up. One day, he told me to pack a vacation bag and that we were going away for a couple of days. I didn't ask any questions. I packed and was ready by the time he said he was sending the driver. I really did wonder where we was going, but I trusted him, and wherever it was, it would be a good time. The car dropped me to the Clearport. I was too amped because I had never been on a jet before. We pulled up to a line of black trucks full of his friends outside of one big ass jet. They loaded our bags and I watched as the guys took pics and clowned before we all loaded onto the jet. Fargo and I made our way to our suite. Soon as we got in, he started tonguing me down. My started leaking instantly. He stopped abruptly and made his way to the shower. While he was in there, I filled the tub up and added bubbles before I got in. I told him to join me and he did. I straddled him once he got in and the kissing started again. This time, he was pulling my hair while doing so. I could feel his rising below me. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having his rich ass as a baby daddy. After all, my first one was the wrong choice. Now, I had to go above and beyond to make his life a living hell. What are you doing? I asked. He woke up delirious. He looked up to see where he was and put his surroundings together. When he realized it was me who woke him up with those girls lying next to him, he began to apologize. Man, you know how this shit is? You know you one of my closest friends. You should know what we on anyway. We here to relax and have fun. That's what I want you to do. He explained as he walked over bodies and empty liquor bottles trying to get back to our bedroom suite. I mean, I'm just confused as to why I didn't see a condom in sight, I responded. He came up with some excuse about how he threw them away, blah, 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 blah. From then on, if Fargo and I were ever to have sex again, it would be protected. One night while at work, this man came and threw a stack on me while on stage and told me to come see him when I was done. He wasn't the cutest, but I could see he was a boss. When I got to him, he told me to dance and threw me like $4,000 more. While he was showering me with dollar bills, we were conversing over the unlimited drinks the bartender was bringing us. His name was G, and he was down here on some business. He had told me he wanted to fly me to Chicago because he had a flight to catch in the morning. I'll take care of you. Just come. That was all I needed to hear, and with that, the following week, I was in Chicago. G's sex was so good, by the time my trip came to an end, we damn near was boyfriend and girlfriend. Following that trip, G made his way back and forth to Miami, and I made my way back and forth to Chicago. G was no longer getting me a hotel. I was now staying in his mansion on the outskirts of Chicago. There was no denying I had to reel this nigga in. He always stayed at the W when he came down to Miami, so I made my way over there. I called the hotel from outside in my car and gave them his first and last name to put me through to his room. He was there, so I had them call his room repeatedly until the receptionist told me, enough. I politely went inside and finessed some white man to let me up to his floor. I got to his room and banged on the door for 30 minutes before I gave up and went back to my car. If that nigga thought it was gonna be easy getting rid of me, he had another thing coming. I sat right out front and waited for his departure. A few hours later, here comes this nigga walking out with cotton candy. I jumped out of my car immediately going off. I paid her ass no mind because I had to respect the game. But I went crazy on his ass, jumped right on him and went in his shit. During this time, my daughter Layla was growing up. And of course, my main concern was making sure my family had help. So in turn, they could help me with Layla. Therefore, all those days going to hang out with G was an investment. He always made sure I was straight. We spent a couple days fucking all over the house. You could tell we missed each other. He even came in me during one session. When it was 6 a.m. and I was still not getting a response, I made up my mind. Now this nigga gotta feel me. I went into his room, searched it up and down until I found what I wanted. A stash of money that he had hidden in his closet. It was over $500,000 and I took $350 of it. I switched my flight to an earlier one and left the house headed back to Miami. Fuck nigga wanna play? Let's play. After my little hiatus, getting back to work was exactly what I needed because the money was not stopping. It was like the customers had missed me and it had only been a couple of weeks. I decided to work the slow nights upon my return because G wouldn't suspect that I would work slow nights. On a slow-ass Wednesday, this rapper walked in. His name was Huncho, and he was the biggest rapper out. 10 times bigger than Fargo. When he called me over, I wouldn't say I was shocked. I'm a bad bitch, but I was shocked. A couple days later, I got that "what you doing" text from a California number and realized it was him. He was in the studio and wanted me to come and chill. I got super cute and pulled up on him. The studio was full of niggas smoking and entertaining whatever groupies they could. I sat alone in a corner and watched him work. It turned me all the way on. I was offered every drug you could think of, but I settled on drinking Casamigos. Huncho would come out of the booth and check on me from time to time, totally ignoring everybody else. We met up at the Versace mansion. I followed him to one of the luxurious rooms. He showered, then I showered. We talked and smoked in bed. He was passing me the joint. I didn't want to seem weird, so I was smoking. He was so intellectual, which turned me on even more. He was in the middle of talking when I grabbed his dick and started sucking slowly. I sucked his dick for all of 5 minutes before I noticed his shit was not getting hard. This was new for me because anybody I touched, it did not take that long. I tried for 5 more minutes before I asked, "What's wrong?" "You know he got like 5 kids already, girl, so something somewhere works," Minx reminded me. It must have slipped my mind how many kids this nigga had, and all I could fantasize about was me having one by him. Do you know what that would do for me on social media? Fuck that. Do you know how much child support money I would get? I excitedly asked Minx. "I miss you, Big Daddy." I texted Huncho as soon as I hung up with Minx. He quickly responded, "Likewise." And that was all I needed. I jumped up to go to this herbal place and bought some fertility pills. If and when we had sex, I was gonna be ready. Huncho and I frequently kept in touch, and soon he was back in Miami wanting to see me again. We met at the Versace mansion again. This time, he was ready. To my surprise, he went in head first with no condom. I thought it was going to take a couple of sessions for this comfortability, but here we was. He pulled out though, and I was mad. Nonetheless, the sex was okay. He couldn't stay hard long enough though. This time was better, but I wasn't completely satisfied. Again, I left with promises to keep in touch. Soon after I left, Fargo randomly hit me up and I drove straight to him and f***ed the shit out of him. "Damn, I don't think I pulled out quick enough," he blurted out after he came. In my mind, I was mad because I didn't want him as a baby father anymore. I had bigger fish to fry this time around. But then again, I better take what I could get because who knew how many more rich niggas I would come across. I left Fargo completely satisfied after all the pussy and ass he ate. Not to mention, he laid the pipe all the way down. Huncho had hit me up a few days later and told me to meet him in Atlanta. He had a concert he wanted me to attend, and when I landed, he had the driver take me straight to Phipps Plaza, and I picked out a cute Louis Vuitton outfit with the shoes and purse to match. When the concert was over, I met him at his hotel suite. We talked about his concert and a few other unimportant things before he fucked me. "Girl, you need to slow down. It's more than just babies out here. Plus, having a baby for recognition and not love is a bit weird," Minx responded. Who said I'm not having a baby for love? Any child of mine will be loved. Look at Layla. It's just this time it will be rich as well. I said, a little annoyed but matter of factly. 2 months later, I took a pregnancy test, and sure enough, I was pregnant. Anxiety hit me. I wouldn't know who the baby daddy was, and I was hoping it was from Huncho. I couldn't have the baby without knowing. I hit up Fargo and Huncho, and I told them the news. They both opted for an abortion, in which I told them both I need $100,000 if they want me to get an abortion. I needed their DNA for the paternity test. I decided to see if I could rekindle with G and get his first. He would be the hardest to get around, being that he was still mad about his money that I took. I called him and made myself cry while apologizing for taking his money, but reminding him of what he did to me. "We was not together," he yelled through the phone. I kept crying, only now I did it more dramatically. Finally, he calmed down and told me to come to Chicago. I brought my paternity kit with me. When I landed, it was like when he saw my baby bump, he softened up. If I wasn't mistaken, he looked like he wanted to tell me to keep it. "Are you sure it's mine?" he questioned 1,000,000 times over dinner. "Of course it is," I answered every time. We went to a hotel where he fucked me in every hole and fell asleep like I knew he would. While he slept, I snuck the cotton swab in his mouth slowly and got the DNA I needed. I quietly went into the bathroom and sealed the cotton swab and stashed it in my bag. 2 days later, when I got back, I mailed it off. While I was at home, I hit up Fargo and told him I wanted to meet up. I was gonna have to fuck him, and as much as I didn't want to, I knew I was gonna have to. So I decided to play a guilt trip on him as well. Soon as I saw him, I broke down and told him how much he hurt my feelings by saying I was fucking other people when I got a yeast infection and that I knew it was from him. He only responded by saying, "If it was me, I apologize." G was heavily invested in the baby. Little did he know I didn't want it to be his. 2 weeks passed and I said a prayer before I opened the results. In each envelope, each result was negative for both guys, which meant Huncho was the dad. Jackpot, bitch. I called him right after and reminded him that I was pregnant. Once again, he told me to get an abortion. And once again, I told him I needed money to do that. He ignored me so much, I had to call a mutual friend of ours to let him know what was going on. I guess this was my karma for everything I put these men through. But in the end, it was my family over everything. I needed that fame because fame was going to bring the money. And the money was always the bottom line. I know all of us know some women like yummy. And everybody, go out there and get my book, Shadows of Seduction, The Bottom Line Part 2. If y'all enjoyed that story, there is 7 more stories just as good, if not better, than Chapter 6, Yummy's story.